I'm Bob Meadows. Welcome to Felixstowe Matters. 3 subjects to occupy us this morning, and surprisingly all wrapped up in just one guest. Our first topic today is large families. How do you respond to those 2 words? What do you think of large families? And when I say large, well, I'm talking about 14, 16 children. How would you cope? Our second topic today is autism. How much do you know about it? There is a whole spectrum of autism. Can you recognise an autistic person? Do you know how to react in their presence? Do you know how to help them? And thirdly, and it seems completely unrelated, but it isn't, board games. An exciting new board game. And all of these topics are connected with my very special guest this morning. So I'd like to say good morning to Bernard Sparks.
Morning, Bob.
Morning, Bernard. Thank you very much for coming in. Let's start with large families. I gleaned from the article in The Star about you and your wife recently that there are 14 children in all in the family, and that before your wife met you there were 10 children from 2 previous marriages.
That's correct, yeah.
And then you 2 married and produced another 4, so a sum total of 14.
We have, yeah.
So let's just talk about life with 14 children. How do you organise yourselves with 14 children around?
Well, I suppose it's organised chaos, I think, is the way to sort of describe it. We don't even notice, to be honest, that you do have 14 children. You just cope with it. The only time I really do notice that you have a large family is when we maybe have to cook for 2 or 3 people. Because suddenly you have to change the way you do everything.
Scale it all down.
And scale it down. You always end up making too much food or anything else. But cooking for 14, handling, washing, everything for 14 is exactly the same as it would be for 2 or 3.
This is so hard to take in, I have to say, Bernard. I cannot imagine it. We only, most of us know of sort of rumours of very large families, or something we see in the newspaper. 100 years ago, they were commonplace, and even in my childhood, I certainly knew of families of 12. But this is a large number by any standards. It's a matter of personal choice. Why did you and your wife make that choice? What was the thinking behind it?
Well, Patricia has always loved children. That's it. She loves raising children. She loves being pregnant. She loves literally the whole.
She likes the feeling of pregnancy. I got that from the article in the newspaper.
Nurturing children, watching them and grow, but they're all their own little people, and they become adults in their own right and everything, and they're all their own personalities. And whether you have 1 or you have 12 or you have 6, the choice is yours. It's not a religious choice. It's not anything else apart from the fact that we love having the kids around. I suppose we're dreading the day that we're just not going to have them all around is the other thing. I was lucky that the fact that I joined a family of 10. Yes. Some people would say to me, you are absolutely nuts for joining a family of 10. Yeah. When I met Patricia, at first I just couldn't believe anybody had let her go in the first place. And then she told me she had 10 children, and it was a case of, all right, you're trying to fob me off here.
Show some photos.
Yeah. What's the names? What's the dates of birth? And I thought, well, nobody can remember all the names and the dates of birth straight away.
And I bet she reeled them off.
And she reeled them off. And it went from there. And at the time, Patricia was living in Northern Ireland and I was living in Lancashire. And we met in the March and we were married in the June. Because I think you know in your life when something is right and when you need to do it. And everything's just grown from there. 4 more children since, but as far as I'm concerned and the kids are concerned, we are all one family. There's no distinction at all between stepfather, stepson, stepchildren.
Yes, I noticed that in the article you refer to them as my children, or
they are
our children.
Yeah,
you don't use the word step.
No, not at all. And that's also the children's choice. It's not just mine and Patricia's. That was children's choice. They chose that is how they wanted it to be.
I quite agree on the word step, because that's got so many overtones that we've picked up from pantomimes, ugly
Cinderella.
sisters. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it always is this: the wicked stepmother, the wicked stepfather, and all of that. Well, you've painted a beautiful domestic scene, but there must be crises.
Oh yes, I think everything. It's just dealing with it on a larger scale. You do have a problem sometimes if people run late to school, or if you've had other things to. Literally just arranging everything with absolute military precision.
It is military operation. Yes. Just getting through the day.
It is. We couldn't have somebody just turn up unannounced. If you were to just have somebody turn up and knock on your door and want to come and see you, no. They would need to make an appointment, and if they don't make that appointment on time, or ring you and say they're being late, I'm sorry, that door is closed, you come back when I'm ready.
Right.
There's, especially in sort of public life, where people think they have a right to come and go when they want to.
Meter readers and this sort of thing.
Meter readers, health visitors, everybody else.
Or I guess tradesmen who don't give you a time, but a morning or afternoon. That's so infuriating.
Yeah, they've got to come.
I need a time. I don't just need to know tomorrow afternoon.
Because you need to know from sort of 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you've got to be preparing and getting that evening meal ready. To make sure everybody is fed and watered.
Yes.
And then, not so much now because they're all growing up, but when they're younger, they've got to be your set bath times and get everybody through. And as the kids get old, they help.
Yeah.
But they've never been forced to help. This is where you get sometimes with large families. I had to look after my younger brother and sister. No, our older children have had the choice because they've not chosen to have a large family.
Yes.
We have.
Yes.
There's a very large family in the States which actually has its own TV show, and it seems to me in their relationships that the mother will have a child, and within weeks of that child being born, the next oldest child is looking after and passed on.
That's what we used to understand a century ago, wasn't it? That especially the poor girls at the top of the tree simply became surrogate mothers. So there was no hope for them of a profession, a trade, or working outside the house. They became the next mummy down. And very often that fell upon girls.
Yeah. But what our older children have also expressed to me, and especially recently as they are getting to a stage where they're now in relationships and they're settling down with their own children and everything else, they've said they're glad to the fact that they have had a grounding. They have not walked into life on a case of, I'm going to be a mum and I'm going to be a dad. What do I do? They know what to do.
They know how
to change nappies. They know how to feed babies. They know how to. They know what to do, and they are thankful and glad of that.
And Bernard, I'm taking it from what you said there that one or two of them at the top end have fallen off and have gone their own way now.
Yes. Well, at the moment we've got 4 of the youngest at home, from 8, 10, 12 and 13.
Okay.
Then we also have 2 other children at home. I say children now. Dominic is 21 this year, and Andrea is 35.
And of course I do understand, because we've had a conversation this morning, that Dominic and Andrea are part of our next topic that we're going to get into in just a moment. But I just want to throw one more little time bomb into the middle of this domestic sequence. And that is, you work from home.
I do. I've worked from home for years.
How does that work?
It's mad. Totally mad. Sometimes you find yourself walking around with the phone in your hand, and one minute you're in the house, you're in the office, or then you're in the garden. That was somebody's fighting with somebody else.
He won't stop. He won't stop.
But I find that is actually sometimes an icebreaker in business, because you're talking to somebody and you just say, you have to excuse me, I work from home.
So you spend quite a bit of time on the phone, presumably at the keyboard.
At the keyboard, hence I need to lose some of this weight.
Don't talk about that subject, please. That's for another day.
But you work around it. You've got to work around it. If you want to support your family, you have got to work around it. We are in a situation, there's far too much these days you'll hear of large families, and the first thing that comes back, especially from some of the more right-wing tabloids, is scroungers. They're living on the state and everything else.
Sitting on the sofa, stuffing their faces while we all pay for them.
Yeah, there is a certain element within large families that, yes, do. But isn't there a certain element in every section of society that does?
And even childless couples.
No, that's it. But we also believe that, yes, there is a stage in life that maybe you do need the state to give you a hand or whatever, and that's what it's there for. But if you can get off your backside and you can work and you look after your children, that is what you should be doing, and that is what we do. And we're great believers in that. And it's hard. It's not easy. It's a struggle, and struggling to fit it in round times when you've got to be there. There are times that I've been in New York. I've had to go away for sort of 10 days at a time.
You're in sales and marketing.
Sales and marketing, well, media really now. And Patricia's the one that's holding the fort, with things.
Yes. And in terms of the daily chores, so to speak, one thinks of the trip to the supermarket and then getting it all back and finding places to put it all. This, for many people sounds like a nightmare scenario, but to you, again, it's life. That's what you do. So just paint me a picture of coming back from the supermarket. How many carloads have you got?
Supermarket's not too bad these days.
No?
Because with the advent of online shopping, 90% of whatever we have will be delivered.
Really?
So that is, and we've online shops since it's a bit available in the area.
Yeah. Do you still get all the bargains?
Well, you get the bargains on that. We'll go to the supermarket,
yes.
And we also use a lot of local shops. Yeah, we will use the local butchers and things like that. But they'll deliver if you want them. You ring them up, tell them what you want, and they'll bring
Talking of local, we haven't made this clear. It's not you that lives in Felixstowe permanently. You're here for a while, but your parents are local people.
Yes, my parents live in Felixstowe, so and I'm here for business, and I'm here for about a month and a half, something like that. Again, Patricia's holding the fort.
Yes, and part of that business is to promote a product of your own, which we'll also come to. But let's move on now from the family, if we may, to the two children that you mentioned earlier, Andrea
and
Dominic, and they are autistic.
They are, yes.
So can you just tell us how their autism became recognised, and then how you cope with it?
Well, obviously Andrea's 35, so Patricia had to deal with this a lot of years ago, and when she found out, she'd never heard of autism, and to be honest, when she was trying to find out what was wrong with Andrea and why she behaved like she did as a baby and a child growing up, a lot of the medical profession couldn't tell her what was wrong with her.
How was she behaving?
She would bang her head on the cot, she would scream, she wouldn't have eye contact with people.
None of the other children were doing this?
No, none of the other. Well, Andrew was the eldest, so it was her first baby. It was a case of, is it right? What should she be doing? She knew something was wrong.
She must have panicked.
She panicked. She went looking for help in all the right places. To be told she was a naughty child. She didn't need to do this. She should just leave her to scream and she'd be all right. But she would scream to a point and bang her head on the cot, and it was padded that much because she'd make her
so that
bleed.
approach, they'll leave them, they'll come down.
Yeah.
Approach doesn't work.
And it took her a good few years for somebody to actually finally say, well, we believe she's autistic. And Patricia said, well, what's autism?
Exactly.
And in those days, we didn't have Google,
No.
and we didn't have everything else, so there was a lot of time spent by her in libraries and things like that.
I don't seem to remember having heard of it as a child. To me, it seems like a moderately modern phenomenon, but it probably has been around for a very long time and we haven't recognised it.
It is. I think these days we also have a situation where people put a name to something, and the more psychologists and psychiatrists and so on will look at something, they will come up with another name for a
They
disorder.
refer to a spectrum, an
Yes.
autistic spectrum, going from here to here, and presumably this means from mild to very severe, chronic or whatever.
And Andrea is on the sort of not high functioning, low functioning end of autism on the spectrum.
The low functioning end, so the early part of it.
Yeah, she will need 24-hour care for the rest of her life. She's not going to be able to deal with
Now,
things.
she's 35.
Yeah.
And you're having to deal on a daily basis with her needs and requirements.
That's correct.
So have you had some training or...
No.
You've had to learn.
And again, what is training? I think there's a lot of people can go out and you can get a degree, you can get everything. I think hands-on, unless you've actually dealt with this, are the best people to deal with things. Yeah, mothers, fathers, grandfathers, grandmothers who have actually had to deal with it are your best source of any way of handling. And everybody's different. Every person is different.
Yes.
It's both Andrea and Dominic both went to special schools. And
Dominic's how old?
Dominic will be 21 this year, and Dominic can. To talk to Dominic and look into it, sometimes you wouldn't think that he had anything wrong. I suppose wrong can be the wrong word.
Yeah.
I think on autism, it's
different.
Different. Just do not see the world in the same way as we do, or are able to communicate what they feel or see in the way.
So he has problems going out, meeting people?
He will have problems meeting people. His circle of friends are still the circle of friends that he had when he did attend a special school.
Oh, right.
He's finds it hard to socialise, but when he does, he's very articulate. He can see what he's a very intelligent boy. He will pick things up very, very quickly.
Well, that's something most people know about because of Rain Man.
Yeah.
And that's the autistic savant.
Yeah.
This is the man who can say 47 matches. Quite remarkable. I've certainly met one who asks everybody their date of birth and then tells them the day of the week.
Yeah.
So I say, and he will say 11th of February 1945. That was a Sunday, and always right.
Yeah.
And does it to every new person he meets. But this is one particular area of the autistic range that is phenomenal, isn't it?
It is.
These people are phenomena.
But I think that if you were to actually take, let's say, the scientific community, I wonder how many of those would be on the autistic spectrum.
Yes, because they live in an enclosed world, don't they? Very often their own little world.
There was a BBC4 programme last month based on autism, and there was a young lad on there who was going on, I think he'd just done his A-levels, and he was going to university to do maths and physics. Yeah. And I think he was going to Cambridge, and he was one of the top physicists. And he said, "That is me." He said, "That's where I'm special."
Yes.
He said, and that is what. And he said he thinks a lot of physicists and everybody else are autistic. He said, and if they weren't autistic, they wouldn't be doing what they do.
Sure.
So I think there are a lot of positives as well as negatives.
Yes.
To things. But it's just seeing how people.
But it's the relationships. That's really what boils down to being a problem. If there is a problem, it's relating to other people.
Yeah.
And it's not just at the simple level of maintaining eye contact. It's to do with just being able to get out there and meet and communicate. How are you helping them to get around that?
Well, they will.
You're too, I mean.
Well, they would spend time with us, with a large family. They spend time with our friends. They're willing to.
Oh, they're okay with your friends.
Oh, they'll be okay. We will have people into the house, and
it's one of the problems with strangers.
It's getting to know people, and in some cases, it's more the person that is meeting the autistic person who needs to learn and understand that. Let's say Andrea doesn't communicate in the same way as we do. What she's expressing isn't the same as we may be thinking it is. Yeah, and it's being aware of those situations and being aware of everything around you.
I'm guessing that Andrea is more severe than Dominic. Could Dominic cope in the workplace? Could it ever happen?
In certain aspects, yes. He did some work experience with a major car spares retailer, and
I suppose he'd have some time to himself working.
But he was fine when he was in the warehouse. He was fine when he was building the bikes and everything else. What he found hard was the dealing with the public side. Yes. And he couldn't do it. He would come home and he would go into an introvert state. He would get very upset, very angry about things and so on, and it would take sitting down, talking to him, I was
going to say, you've developed ways of pulling him out.
And you find out, and it turns out that somebody asked him a question where a particular car part was in the store, and he didn't know, and he couldn't get it, and he found that.
And that upset him. Not being able to answer a question.
Not being able to, communicate across to the person, and that bothered him. He's currently learning to drive, and
now he needs to have a very, very specialised driving instructor. I guess
he's got a very, very good instructor who's actually based locally, and this is one of the other. He's actually come over with me.
I was going to ask. Over from
Northern Ireland with me, and he's come to do his test here and do a sort of an intense course with an instructor who's very, very good. He's understanding with him. He's worked with other autistic and special needs people. And he said to me,
Brilliant.
he's telling him where hazards are and things like that he's needed up, but he picks it up so quickly. But where he said he might sort of struggle is when he has to get somewhere at a certain time or another situation once he's passed his test. But we can't hold him back. That's what he wants to do. That is his main goal, is to pass his test. And I'm not going to sit there and say, no, you can't. As long as there's no medical reason.
Yes.
He used to be epileptic, but he's had, it's been clear for 12 years from any fit, so we had to deal with epilepsy as well.
I didn't realise that epilepsy could actually disappear.
Yeah.
I thought it was for life.
No, it's...
Because that's on a spectrum as well, isn't it? You've got petit mal at one end and then really, really serious
grand
attacks,
mal,
the full grand mal attack at the other end.
A lot of trouble when he was younger. Rushed into A&E, ended up in intensive cares and things like that. But he's grown out of it. Yes. And he's had no medication or no seizures for 12 years.
Wonderful.
So the DVA have said yes, and he's had his medicals that he's okay.
And are you aware of what sparked off an attack, and is there a way of avoiding it?
Again, it could have been stress with Dominic. He could get very stressed and he couldn't get across a lot of his feelings. And a lot of times, there can be, I think there is a real link between autism and epilepsy.
Really?
Yeah, in that way. But he's getting there. And I'm never going to hold him back. And I will be very cross if anybody did hold him back and say he can't do that. Until he proves he can't do it, he's got to be given exactly the same chances as everybody else.
You see, it seems to me, talking to you, that you regard this as just one of life's challenges and just something to roll your sleeves up and get on with.
Ironic, but we're dealt a set of cards. And you have to
a link into our final topic, if ever there was one, a set of cards. Let's move on to it now, because that seems to be the ideal moment there. There is a link here with board games. Many of us play them. Some, I think, probably just once a year at Christmas, and others, indulge on a regular basis because it's just something they enjoy doing. And we all know all the Waddington's games, and we've probably all played them so many times, but you have got a new one.
Yes.
Tell us about your new game, please.
Convoy the Card Strategy Game.
Right.
It's a very, very simple game.
Yes.
Which is played with a board.
Shall we see the board?
Which we shall.
Okay, let's hold the board up to the camera there, and that is the board. So what are we seeing there, Bernard?
What you're seeing is a board made up of 96 squares, which is 2 full packs of cards, minus the jacks and the jokers.
Right.
And you play the game with 2 full packs of cards, including the jacks and the jokers, and 150 counters. 50 blue, 50 red, and 50 black.
I think we've got a picture here of the counters on. Let's just see if I can get that into a place where, no, that's not working. Not quite. Now we're better. Now, just find the edge of the frame there, and are we getting something that's, I think, I'm getting some view up, across, more. Oh, this is difficult, isn't it? Here we are, we're filling the screen now. Now we can see the colours of the counters.
Yeah.
And you, of course, showing it.
Just some of the brood.
Okay, and some of the children.
And boyfriends and girlfriends, I think, in there as well.
Oh, is that who they all are? Right, okay. So the game, it's in production, or it's
currently
at the moment?
It's currently available to pre-order on our website.
Okay.
We're in production for the retail version of the game.
Right. So we're talking about 2 versions here, a charity version and a retail version.
And that's one of the reasons I'm actually in Felixstowe, is to launch the charity version of the game.
Okay.
We've decided... We feel, Patricia and I, that if you're in business, you should give something back, always. And we've decided to launch a charity version of the game in every single county of the country.
Oh.
So we're here to launch the Suffolk version.
Are you going to be doing this in 40-something counties?
Yes.
My goodness. Wow.
And we were in this county, we're supporting Autism Suffolk.
Yeah.
And... we have also launched the Lancashire, Manchester, Cumbria, Cheshire and Liverpool versions where we're supporting the North West Air Ambulance in that area. And again, each county will have its own local charity.
I have a copy of Autism Suffolk's sort of handbook. It's a regular, I don't know if it's called a handbook or a newsletter, but it's a regular publication, isn't it, which gives you updates on various things that are happening in the autism field across the county. And I found it really quite instructive. I learnt a lot just from reading that through. So you're supporting that organisation.
And the way we're supporting that is we've decided to make a sponsor a square version of the game.
Right.
So because you have 80 squares available on the board which you can market your company or brand on.
So the Ace of Spades
we would then make available for a company to sponsor. And because there's 2 Ace of Spades on a board, you can sponsor both squares.
The red one and the black.
So as soon as the board has every square sold, we can go to manufacture. Because that way it's not costing the charity anything, it's not costing us anything. The cost of manufacture has been met by the advertising revenue that has come in from each particular company. I've met with a couple of brewing chains locally, which I won't mention as yet, who are sponsoring a square.
Oh, good.
With various other people.
Are they set prices, or do you negotiate?
No, it's set price. It's £80 plus VAT to sponsor a square.
Okay.
And that gets your brand, company name, whatever you want, on 1,000 board games, which will be retailed locally through independent retailers.
We're still on the charity version.
On the charity version of the game, yeah. People don't throw away board games. Unlike...
They have piles of them, don't they?
You have a situation that people can advertise and market on a calendar or leaflet or monthly magazine. They're thrown away. That's it. End of the month, end of the year, they've gone.
Yes.
A board game isn't. People keep it, they get it out.
Quite a powerful selling tool.
It is, yeah.
Yes.
And no one squares better than any other. So you will see when you're playing the game every single brand that's marketed on the board. So nobody has got an advantage over it. Unless, for instance, you decided to take all the aces, then you'd be having...
But in order to do it, do you have to have every square marketed? Can you go with a print run with some not
We
covered?
will have to sell, because we've brought the cost down to a point that £80 per square covers the cost of manufacture of the boards.
So you've got to sell a lot.
Got to sell a lot, yeah.
Right.
And they will sell. Oh. Yeah, there's been a lot of interest already. And it's because it's marketing. It's not like a company where they've got to make a charitable donation and they have a certain budget for charity donation. Because it's marketing, you can also claim your VAT back.
So tell us some costs, Bernard. You've got the charity version, and then there will be later on a commercial version.
A commercial version, which will retail at $34.99.
Right.
It's available to pre-order on our website now at £20.
That would be a big company like Waddington's, or similar.
It will be it'll be whether it's we do it ourselves or we actually through a partner who we're working with. That's will be available later.
And then the charity version.
The charity version we expect to sort of be retail between $14.99 and $19.99. $4.99 of which we will donate to Autism Suffolk, and hopefully some philanthropic retailers will look at it and say over and above any of their costs they will donate any difference, but we can't force them to. It's down to them, but it will help the local economy because we will be putting it through local retailers. It won't be going through the major chains.
But you've set yourself this enormous target of every county.
Every county.
That's going to take you, what's your sort of time frame?
Well, I don't know how long.
Forever.
What we're looking for as well, we're looking for partners who are already in the sales and marketing field who can say, we can sell those squares for you. We can bring people on board. We've already got that.
It won't all be Bernard.
It won't all be me doing it. So eventually, as this takes off, there will be more people doing it. So for £80 you sponsor a square, you get a copy of the board game, and you get 25% off any further board games. But you're helping people. It's getting there. We're also going to be organising events in pubs and clubs and retailers.
My producer, I think we just do to flash up this photograph here, if I can, yes, and it is indeed you with Mr. Ronan Keating. So you've got Ronan on board, which is wonderful. via Louis Walsh, who I believe gave you Ronan's phone number.
Yeah, Ronan's joined the company as a shareholder on our other project which we have, which is Shelltown, which is a kids...
And that's connected with this chap in
It
here.
is,
Let's get him on the screen so people know. Isn't he a wonderful looking character? Did you devise him?
Patricia came up with the stories of Grandpa Crinkly Splat crackering exactly the...
He's a wonderful character. I love his teeth. Yeah.
They're the
Tremendous.
So good eggs and bad eggs that live in the mythical place called Shelltown.
And this is in the form of a book.
We have a book and a 4-minute animation.
Is currently on sale where?
It's currently available in all major bookstores, Waterstones,
Oh,
Tesco's,
good.
Amazon, anything else. You can order
How
it
much?
there. It's $5.99, and we also donate to the National Autistic Society on there as well. It's available on our website, which is shelltown.tv.
Shelltown.tv,
where you can also see the 4-minute
we
pilot.
can see another example of that. We've got Helltown there, but we know that it's Shelltown. There he is on a bike. He's a wonderful character. Are you thinking of having a mascot of him that actually can walk the streets?
We already do, yes.
Oh, you've got one?
He was actually...
He actually exists.
He appeared in Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York in 2007, and we were the only company to have a character there from Europe.
We're getting close to the time where Sophie will make that sign to me. So let's just show the brood. There they all are, just to prove that this man has got a huge... And the big shot of all, here he is with
Patricia.
But if you call her Patricia or Pat?
Patricia.
There she is.
Yes.
And Patricia is 53, and the Daily Star made a great point of what wonderful shape she's in for a woman that has produced 14 children.
Yeah.
But I mean, she is, quite clearly, and I'm sure you're very, very proud of the situation that you're in, aren't you?
That's it. But if anybody wants to sponsor a square, they can go along to convoythegame.com. That's convoythegame.com, and follow the links to Suffolk Sponsor a Square, or give me a call on 07794 486 602.
Wonderful. Bernard, we have to draw it to a conclusion there. Thank you very much for coming today. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Enjoy your time around Suffolk. I know you're going to the local radio station later on this morning.
Yep.
So we'll all switch on and listen to you there. Bernard, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
That was Felixstowe Matters, because Felixstowe matters. Bye-bye.